charged with 2 counts, 9.
What's happening in the case of this individual who shot at or tried to get close enough to shoot Donald Trump, according to what they're saying? Let's get into the details, but first let's watch the dubbed version. She is the federal prosecutor Janine Pirro speaking about Cole Allen, the shooter at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, a teacher in California, 30 years old, charged with 2 counts. But let's hear in her own voice what she says.
At this moment, the defendant is facing 2 charges. The first under Section 924C for using a firearm during the commission of a violent crime, and the second under Section 111 for assaulting a federal agent using a dangerous weapon. As everyone knows, there was an individual, a uniformed Secret Service officer, who was shot, and fortunately, he is okay and will be fine. But it's clear from what we know so far that this person intended to cause as much harm and injury as possible. Unfortunately, thanks to the checkpoint right outside the ballroom, where thousands of people were gathered to hear the President of the United States, because that checkpoint worked, no one knew where this defendant was headed.
But there's also this image from an alleged security camera in which they show, according to what they say, the moment when he tries to get past security. Note that this video that has been surfacing has been slightly enhanced with AI to make it clearer. But by enhancing it, there are also details that can change because the original video was very low quality. So let's watch the video, but keep that in mind. This video, in case someone is saying it's 100% real, well, it is real, but it's enhanced, as I keep saying, and enhancing it changes it slightly. So, well, there's the hotel. According to the reports, at that moment in the background, the person is running. This is Colin, the individual who fired. He's running. There you can see in the image, I insist it's been modified. You can't see the long gun that he supposedly had, right? I insist, since it's been modified, maybe you can't see it in this image, or maybe he doesn't have a long gun and only has a pistol. That will also have to be investigated, but I want you to watch again starting from where he's running. Look, notice how he comes running from the back, okay? Over there, in this part, right? But this one, this Secret Service officer possibly, right? This person right here, right? He, at that moment, had already drawn his weapon, right? It's impressive how quickly he reacts as soon as he sees him and already has his weapon out. I'm going to go back a little bit. Immediately, the speed is impressive. It's just like in cowboy movies. Look, but the other one is running really fast too. So look, by the time he pulls it out, he's already there. You can see the feet of this person running. He zigzags and crosses the security line, right? Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, on one side. Others on the other side, right? So he got past multiple people who, well, we can say they reacted quickly, yes, but not quickly enough. The person shouldn't have crossed that line or gone through there, period. That's how it was. There were too many people, all of them armed. This shouldn't happen, but he keeps running. People point their guns at him, and well, that's obviously when he's arrested. It's really shocking. Who is this individual? Let's get into the details because he even left a manifesto, right? And well, some important details have been revealed that weren't made very clear, that weren't understood on the first day. This is also an image. The moment when he is in the ambulance being treated, Colin Allen was a registered guest at the Washington Hilton, confirmed by the Chief of DC Police, Jeffrey Carroll. He wasn't shot but was taken to the hospital for evaluation. The ambulance photo shows him, but he has no gunshot wounds. His house in California is being searched right now. And actually, look, there are already images of Colin's house. This is his house in California, completely surrounded by neighbors and police. All the neighbors are there. They probably recognized him and said, "Oh, we know him, right?" Just imagine living in that neighborhood. Well, obviously everyone was talking about it, right? Impressive. Look, check out this image.
Prototype for a wheelchair emergency brake.
The wheelchair brakes
tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground. The idea with this...
That's his voice in an appearance he made on ABC News. He appears, well, showing this innovation he was developing, a proposed brake for wheelchairs. It's a program that top-level universities have over there in the United States, in which they say he was a key part. Let's say he was a 30-year-old person, 21 years old, super prepared. He had even been a professor as well, but it was surprising because he had a very, very, very advanced career and ended up being a professor at a school. Well, younger, let's say the issue stands out because such a well-prepared person was, let's say, doing that. In fact, at his school as a teacher, he invented a video game to teach the students. Maybe it was his calling, right? I don't know. But the point is that he was someone who, let's say, he didn't seem to have any problems at first, but over time he started to become obsessed with Trump. To such a level, I mean, we're talking about an unhealthy, even violent level. He started buying weapons. He started learning how to shoot. Things were already on another level, let's say. And in this situation regarding this issue, there were even family members who warned the authorities about it so that, well, they wanted to look into the case because they were afraid it could be something more. Now it's known that he reportedly published a manifesto. That's the manifesto that Colin Allen published, which we're talking about. It's not so much that he wanted to eliminate Donald Trump, but rather what he said was that he wanted to eliminate all the high-level politicians he could. I don't know if he could actually harm those politicians, but let's say for him that was fine. He says, I'm not willing to allow, he says, that a bastard, not a pedophile, this rapist, traitor, dirties my hands with his crimes. I mean, so basically he accuses him and says he felt responsible for the actions of this character, Donald Trump. And in response to that, he makes this huge decision, obviously, because now it's known that even Allen's own brother had warned about it. To the authorities, the thing is that the manifesto claims he wanted to attack officials from the Trump administration. Investigators also found extensive anti-Trump and anti-Christian rhetoric on his social media accounts. According to Allen's brother, he alerted the New London Police Department after receiving an alleged manifesto before the incident. The United States Secret Service and the Montgomery County Police Department later interviewed, for example, Allen's sister Adriana Allen at their family home in Rockville. She said that her brother often made radical statements and talked about doing something to fix today's world. She confirmed that he bought 2 pistols and a shotgun from Cap Tactical Firearms and kept them at his parents' house without their consent. He regularly trained with those firearms at shooting ranges. It was reported that he was linked to a group called the White Awakes. According to reports, well, this whole matter is being investigated, obviously, because they want to see whether there are more individuals who might be thinking about doing the same thing. This person, according to reports, this attacker, well, let's move on to the next reaction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I am Jeff Carroll, Interim Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. This afternoon and tonight, members of the United States Secret Service and the Metropolitan Police Department were here at the Hotel Washington conducting a site inspection for the Correspondence Center. As the mayor mentioned, at approximately 8:36 tonight, an individual rushed the United States Secret Service checkpoint here in the area. In the hotel lobby, he was armed with a shotgun, a pistol, and several knives. As he ran through that checkpoint, members of the United States Secret Service law enforcement intercepted that individual. This is a very preliminary investigation at this time. We know that law enforcement exchanged gunfire with the individual. We know that an officer from the Uniform Division of the U.S. Secret Service was shot in his vest. He was taken to a local hospital for treatment. He is in good spirits at this time. The suspect in this case was not hit by gunfire. However, he was taken to a local hospital to be evaluated.
The President of the United States, Donald Trump, stated that the attack occurred during the White House Correspondents' Dinner and that it could have a background of hatred toward Christianity, obviously making the case immediately more political. According to Trump, the alleged attacker left a manifesto with messages of strong hostility toward Christians, something that could completely change the narrative of the attack from an isolated act to ideological terrorism. The suspect was also identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31 years old. The person who managed to get close to the event perimeter with a pistol, knives, and a shotgun obviously exposed an alarming security failure. The quick reaction of the United States Secret Service did not prevent the attacker from reaching the main hall where Trump and other high-profile figures were located. During the shooting, there were scenes of absolute chaos. Journalists and even invited officials threw themselves to the ground and looked for cover under the tables, while tactical agents, according to reports, there have been several criticisms about why they were grabbing Trump's cabinet members. The suspect, and they left the wives behind or even abandoned them. Un lado, ¿verdad? Bueno, manifesto hostile to Christians. Por ahí ya hemos the narrative of the terrorist attack, and that's how they apply it. I mean, the protocol says that they have to protect the VIPs. I mean, they leave them to the sides. Obviously, many of them, well, those from the cabinet, well, they're told who. During scenes of absolute chaos, journalists were looking, leaving the wives behind. We'll show you a shocking image of Kennedy, the Secretary of Health, in a moment. The acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, confirmed that the investigation is still open, by the way, and that there is no official conclusion about the motive, although there are signs of targeted planning. The FBI is already analyzing electronic devices, security cameras, and the entire route of the attacker from Los Angeles to Washington, which suggests there was prior preparation. Trump also launched a strong criticism toward the suspect's family, insinuating that they knew about his mental state or violent tendencies and did not act in time. This case further revives the issues of ideological radicalization, but also mental health and hate speech, especially on highly volatile topics. Obviously, all of this causes things to escalate to other levels. Even very dangerous individuals, where you always have to be attentive to loved ones and family members who might suddenly be dealing with a mental health issue. In this case, now, assuming that the narrative is exactly as they say, because there are things they're telling us and things that are still unclear, right? Obviously, starting with how he got into the hotel. Normally, when these kinds of things happen, they check who's in the hotel, and if there's an alert, they obviously remove that person from the hotel. If there's suspicion, and in this case not only were there suspicions, but his own family, including his brother, had already warned authorities about what was happening. No, the authorities didn't communicate well. Clearly, this case also opens up the possibility that it will be classified as domestic terrorism, and national security laws and surveillance of extremist groups could become stricter. This group he apparently belonged to will be analyzed, though some still say he could be a lone wolf. Let's see, pay attention to this, but look, let's move on to another point. Meanwhile, the investigation into the shooter case over there in Washington, D.C. continues, and what's happening over there in California is also being investigated. The house is surrounded by firefighters, police, and ambulances. There's everything in case something happens, but obviously the case draws attention, and Colin Allen's house, a person who is now clearly under arrest. The lone wolf hypothesis continues to gain traction. Let's go into detail about what they know regarding this supposed hypothesis. The hypothesis is that the United States Secret Service tried to carry out an assassination at the White House. It happened at the traditional Correspondents' Dinner, as you know, a high-profile political and media event where Trump was present along with key figures from his administration. The detainee was identified as Colt Thomas Allen, who was intercepted before reaching the main hall where the president was located. The main hypothesis of the FBI and the United States Secret Service, they state that the most viable hypothesis would be that of a lone wolf, meaning he acted without a criminal organization behind him. However, the investigation will remain open for some time as long as there is still suspicion that he could have been influenced by another group. The suspect's sister, Adriana Allen, was reportedly the key to reconstructing his movements, weapon purchases, and his mindset prior to the attack. The attacker reportedly took advantage of having spent only the previous night at the Hilton Hotel and then moved within the premises to reduce suspicion. Another controversial fact is that there were no metal detectors installed at all entrances, only at some of them. And that has generated strong criticism, and this is also confirmed by reporters who attended the event. Trump has described this individual as a madman or a lone wolf, reinforcing the narrative that it could just be that it could simply be an individual with some problem, with some obsession in that sense. The prosecutor, as we saw earlier, Janine Pirro, stated that the detainee intended to cause as much harm as possible. Beyond that, let's say, he didn't assume he would get as far as where Trump was, but he did at least want to cause that harm. It's a really serious issue. Now, another matter is what the manifesto says. According to what the Secret Service reports, they obtained the complete manifesto from this individual. The text is about 1,100 words and was sent by Allen to his family before traveling to Washington. It explains in detail his political motives and his intention to carry out the attack. In the manifesto, Allen accuses Donald Trump of being a traitor and justifies his action as a way to address what he considers political abuses, making it clear that the intention was fully deliberate. The document also outlines his so-called rules of engagement, where he defines who were targets and who were not, including Trump administration officials, security agents, and event attendees. Allen reportedly entered Hotel Washington, the venue of the event, armed. The accused sister also confirmed that Allen practiced at shooting ranges and had reportedly hidden the weapons at his parents' house before the operation. According to reports, he is believed to have or may have ideological ties with radical groups like the White Awakes. Donald Trump was also accompanied by J.D. Vance from the same party and, of course, the First Lady, Melania Trump. The prosecutor says that the reaction or the intention, as they know now, was that he wanted to cause as much damage as possible at the scene. That was what he was trying to do. Trump described this not only as a problem of radicalization, but as an issue where everyone has to be against it, against that kind of violence. Another issue that also draws attention is the religious aspect, right? I mean, that has also generated controversy. The president stated this. But after several details have emerged about the psychological profile of this person and how he was behaving, it seems that he had a very different reaction, let's say compared to traditional Christianity in the United States. It's a topic that will have to be confirmed or clarified later on, but it obviously draws attention and, I insist, this whole situation generates even more debate. And the issue of security, right? Obviously, that's going to be extremely important in the future. Now, look, the other question that's being asked is about this image, right? There with a computer scientist from California who, by the way, is a trained engineer from Caltech. I mean, we're talking about engineering elite, right? To be there, you have to have a perfect score on the SAT, and that's the only way you can get in. He's the best of the best, a person with great abilities who could have achieved many positive things, and now he'll probably end up in prison for the rest of his life, right? Obviously, it's a huge issue, right? And so the media are publishing this, right? The moment he graduated, right? They publish it right now. It says this, and the moment he's being arrested while still very young. Obviously, it's a huge issue, the craziest thing of all. I'm going to tell you something that's really surprising, right? This engineer, he would be working in the same laboratory where these scientists have been disappearing. Do you remember those scientists that, well, people have talked about from JPL? From the prestigious NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory? Well, he was there too. He was a student researcher at the JPL laboratory. Come on, he had a scientific and computer science background. He had an advanced master's degree from Caltech, right? Is it something else, or did he already have a history? If something happened to him, people would just say another scientist is missing. Just imagine, confirmed by the way, by Caltech, right? That he really graduated, that he really came from there, right? One thing that stands out to me and I think is important, and I'm glad it happened, is that Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, responded to the shooting and said that violence is not the way. I think it's a show of solidarity to the president, whoever it may be, right? But it should be done, especially with neighbors. Right? Because if not, then suddenly interference from certain interests starts creeping in to create more friction. Besides, well, Trump gets plenty of attention. President Claudia Sheinbaum responded to the Washington incident, urging people to reject violence as a solution and noting the presence of a very interesting double message. Well, that was one of the first reactions I saw at the international level, by the way, which I also find interesting. She says it's good that President Trump and his wife are okay after the recent events. We send them our respect. Violence should never be the way. The president wrote this on her account, an important message, especially considering the controversies that have come up recently with the CIA and other issues. Suddenly, it may seem or appear insensitive on the part of the Mexican government in the way it reacted to the CIA issue and how Carol Levitt tried to frame it over there. The fact that she responded to this quickly seems very important to me when it comes to foreign relations. I think the mistake of the previous president Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and even going back to Fox, is that their reactions were slow. When these events happen, the reactions are usually very slow or there is no reaction at all and it seems insensitive. That's coming from the presidents, but the opposite happened this time. When events like this happen here, you see how countries, including the United States, even Trump himself and other presidents, usually react more or less quickly to circumstances or problems that happen in Mexico. So I think Mexico should react that way, and then I also started to see that other presidents react in a more or less similar way, right? Well, in the end, against that kind of violence. Look, let's move on to other matters. We'll be right back in a moment. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your super chats, for the memberships, for supporting this channel. Subscribe if you haven't done so. You already know how to do it. Turn on the notification bell, watch all the videos, that way you'll get notifications every day. We update live as things happen, and at night Astrid and I have long conversations with all of you. Thank you very much. Take care. See you soon.